Hi guys, welcome to I'm a Biker. Welcome back to I'm a Biker. And today we are riding the new updated BS6 ready Himalayan from Royal Enfield. Small changes, and let's see if they have any big differences. So in terms of changes for the BS6 version, well, of course you have now a couple of new color options. You now have the hazard switch, which is here. This piece, which used to be metal and laser engraved, is now plastic. But yeah, as an off-road bike, I think it still looks the part. Of course, it's now about 4 kgs heavier, so it comes at about 199 kgs curb weight. And in terms of power and the torque remains the same even after the BS6 conversion. And power has come down marginally, about 0.2, 0.3. So not a huge difference there. So Royal Enfield have not officially said a statement, but the guys at the dealership and some of the Royal Enfield PR guys tell me that there has been changes to the suspension, there has been changes to the brakes, and also now the tires are also the new C8 ones, which actually give better on-off road grip in terms of real-world usage as well. So small changes, and in some versions I saw a couple of other fellow journalists talk about the meter, which is now white, but this particular version we have here still has the orange backlit, so that remains the same. But there are some blackened bits here, there overall, but apart from that, visually it's very, at least for the untrained eye, it's very difficult to differentiate this from the previous version, apart from the color option, of course. Now coming to the engine and performance, engine character remains pretty much the same in terms of good bottom end torque, good usable power. I really like how tractable this engine is. In fact, you can use it as your daily bike without any issues. It's so much low end grunt that the 0 to 100 is a beauty, and it's very usable. And even in top gear, fifth gear, you can potter around town at 40 and still pulls away cleanly from those speeds. So it's very usable power in the city. If you push it with the pillion, we did about 120, and there things got a little bit dramatic in terms of how the bike feels. In terms of slight vibes started creeping in and the mirrors started getting blurred out. But 0 to 100 is good. It will do 120 relatively easy, and beyond that I believe it struggles, but we didn't take it beyond that as well. Yes, there was some heat thrown around onto your legs, but nothing that is bad or you cannot get used to, or it's not hugely, of course it is a 400cc engine, so not a bad thing, let's put it that way. And gearbox is pretty decent. I could have liked, or I would have liked a little bit more precise gearing, but overall usage it's been good. And in terms of mileage, well, out on the highway we got about 32, 33, and city usage it came down to about 28, 30. Couple of guys saying this on Instagram and then asked us about the clutch. Is it heavy, light? Well, I personally did not find it too heavy. Even for city riding, I did not find it too heavy. With constant gear changes, it was not that big of a problem. Yes, it is not as light as something which we're used to from certain other manufacturers, but it's not that big of a bother. Now when you're out on the highway, beyond speeds about 80, 90, that buffeting still remains, which sort of like hits your face. But the easiest solution I found was to keep your visor down, and then it's no longer an issue, but it's still there. So especially for my height, so I'm 5'11", and when I sit on it, it sort of hits the face, but instantly put down the visor and it's no longer an issue, but it's still there. Now we have ridden the controversial BS3 version and then the BS4 version, which we actually like. Then now the BS6 version, not hugely different from the BS4 version. I personally feel that there is an increase in refinement and how the engine refinement has been managed. And that 0 to 100 range, where you're going to use it mostly, that is much more refined right now. Higher revs, yes, of course, 5.5, 6k RPM, it starts stressing out. But in that usable RPM range, it has become much more calm and much more relaxed and much more refined. So now the handling has always been Himalayan's strong point in terms of on off-road handling. It's been really good. The beauty of that still remains. The ride ergonomics are still very comfortable. You can just sit on it. The seat height is actually one of the lowest, 800 mm for an adventure bike. 800 mm is quite low, and even people of shorter height can keep their feet planted without any issues. And there's a natural riding stance also. Even when you stand up on the pegs, your knees are naturally hugging the tank, and it's a very beautifully designed ergonomic position for the inner handlebars, and where your knees automatically hugs the tank. It's very natural. You don't feel like you need to reposition yourself and figure out your style. The moment you get on it, you're at one with the bike, and you know exactly that you can control it, and there's no fear associated with this. The front suspension is super soft, soaks up bumps very well, and coupled with the 21-inch tires, you can take it anywhere, and it's really comfortable. The rear suspension also is surprisingly quite soft, and it can take a beating. We have pushed it. Well, I'm not a great off-road rider, but this has made me go faster than I usually do, so that tells it. And I've been trying to do some funny stuff for the camera and hope it looks good. Now, the one earlier issue with the previous generation Himalayans was that due to the larger 21-inch tire at the front and in the super soft suspension, the actual on-road dynamics, there was a lot of criticism that at higher speeds it used to get a little bit too spongy and wavy and a lot of those things. But I'm not sure exactly what they have done, or even they have not told us. There's not an official statement on what changes are there, but it actually feels much more planted on the road. At speeds above say 100, yeah, maybe things do get a little bit of not in control, but maybe it could have used a bit more confidence. But for city use, don't let the size of this bike fool you. It is super nimble. You can change direction, and as if you're riding a commuter bike, it behaves very well, and it soaks up the bumps, all the speed breakers, potholes, all the small back braking undulations on the road. It soaks up all those very well, and it's very comfortable. Now coming to the brakes, there has been an improvement on the brakes. The brake feel as such, maybe not so much, but the braking stopping power is much more improved than before. So earlier, due to the larger wheel size, and you wanted a lot more feedback and you want a lot more stopping power, but right now it feels to stop, and it actually stops much quicker than the previous version, that is for sure. Could it have used more feel, and would I have liked more feedback and knew exactly what was going on? Yes, but compared to the previous version, it definitely is better. And also now you have the switchable ABS, so you have the ABS button on the console here, and it does switch back on after you just switch off the ignition, but you just need to hold that button for a few seconds and it disengages the ABS for the rear wheel. So the front wheel still has ABS. Now the big question when it comes to Royal Enfield, is build quality. Let me put it this way, there has been no issue so far. And I don't mean it sarcastically, and I believe usually when you see a motorcycle, you tend to kind of predict what things can go wrong, and after using it hard for a couple of days and a week or two, you kind of figure out that these are things that can go wrong. But yes, among the Royal Enfield fleet, I feel this is one of the most decently made motorcycle. I know the BS3 versions was very controversial. The BS4 versions did a good job at repairing that, and I think this one's much more better built than before. Now obviously a lot of people who are picking this up will be quite serious about touring and quite serious about comfort. So I'm happy to say that even the pillion seat is quite comfortable, and thanks to the super soft suspensions, the pillion seat by itself is very comfortable. There's enough space for the pillion, and pillion life is also very comfortable. And we did a short, maybe about 100-120 kilometer ride with him as pillion, and things are still good, and he still had a camera bag on his back, and still he was happy jumping back on. So that is pretty decent. So overall, what do I think about it? Well, I personally loved riding it. I had a really good time pushing my levels of off-road thing, and it made me look cool in a lot of photographs and a lot of video clips. I think a lot of people who take this will have much more pleasant experience. And if you want a raw motorcycle, this is very less complicated bits. Yes, you have few niggles here and there, but if you want a raw motorcycle that's just bare bones, ready to tour, can be repaired anywhere, very no nonsense machine. I think the Himalayan makes a very strong statement, and we still don't have a motorcycle in this 2 lakh category that that does what this machine does, and I really like it. And if I was in the market looking out for something in this category, I would certainly go for this. And yes, I believe that it can be much better, but yeah, I think it's a much better package than before. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.